Kigali International Arbitration Center. We're delighted actually to have all of you here, including those that are going to join us in due course of time. And definitely we recognize that it's now 10 a.m. GMT, 1 p.m. in East African time and different times across your regions. And we appreciate that you've been able to make time to join us today. And today's presenter is going to be Dr. Faustin Ntezilielo, who is a former Chief Justice of Rwanda, a distinguished jurist, scholar, and thought leader in arbitration and judicial reform. Before that, we will take a few highlights with regard to webinar protocols before we start off. And it's required that you mute your microphone unless you're speaking. Also, you should be able to use the chat box for questions and comments. And also you should be able to use the raise hand feature to make your contributions. In terms of language and interpretation, you should be able to select your preferred language using the interpretation button, which is available in English, Francais, or Portuguese. Again, for your information, you can turn off your camera during interactive segments and keep it off during presentations to save on bandwidth. We also request you to keep comments respectful and be concise when speaking and avoid background noise, which may be destructive to the audience. Again, you should be able to try and rejoin if you face any connectivity issues from your end. Again, the session will also be recorded. Yeah, so we will also request that you also actually write your name and where you come from so that we are able to keep track of the participants, okay? So having said that, before the presenter starts, we should be able to get some comments from FAO and the Kigali International Arbitration Center from our very own Victor Mugabe. And therefore, I would request that Wana Mugabe, you make your comments before we invite Dr. Faustin.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. I think, can everyone hear me? So moderator, can
Yes,
hear
I
me?
can hear you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, so moderator and participants, so it is really a great pleasure for me and the institution that I represent to be part of this webinar. But first and foremost, so I really want to thank the Federation of African Engineering Organizations and its ADR task force that is led by Engineer David Nyande for actually trusting our institution in advancing the use of ADR in the infrastructure sector across our continent. I saw that in the document, you tried to say something about the center, but let me repeat just very briefly. The Kigali International Arbitration Center is a leading private sector-based arbitration institution that was launched in 2012 to promote the use of alternative dispute resolution in Rwanda, in Africa, and beyond through the case administration, public education, research, and training in ADR. So today you are very pleased to partner with the Federation to promote ADR in construction sector, where we think professionals like engineers can play a crucial role in adequately preventing and maintaining disputes that may affect this big construction sector that most of our countries in Africa may have. Maybe though I'm not a presenter, but I believe, like most of us on this platform, that infrastructure is one of the leading sectors of the Africa's economic transformation journey. So of course, along with the agriculture, services, technology, and manufacturing. So we believe, I think, here and the Federation that it's really high time for the engineers to embrace ADR in that critical economic sector because we think and we believe that dispute, if not really properly prevented or managed, can severely harm our economic transformation journey. And ADR is one of the most feasible solutions. And that being actually the reason why the Federation and KIAG concluded a collaboration framework last year. Actually, next month in November, we shall celebrate 1 year of collaboration. And our collaboration aims at enhancing the use of alternative dispute resolution processes in this construction industry. So now, like webinars like this one, form part and parcel of our collaboration objectives, and we expect to cooperate with the Federation in other area actions in order to build a very robust, efficient, and sustainable dispute resolution system in the infrastructure sector on the continent. As I conclude, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Chief Justice Emeritus of the Republic of Rwanda, so Dr. Faustin Eziyai, for accepting to facilitate this webinar despite his busy schedule. I believe that his willingness to share his expertise as a pro-ADR former Chief Justice and ADR practitioner is a testament of his dedication to the most appropriate mechanism for dispute resolution known as ADR. So thank you very much, and I hope we shall have really a very engaging conversation this morning or afternoon. Thank you very much, moderator. Now, back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, the Secretary General of KIAC, but also the Federation of African Engineering Organizations for inviting me. It is a great pleasure for me to be part of this discussion on a very important topic, which is the use of EDR in infrastructure, in construction, in engineering disputes. My presentation will revolve around some key points as follows. I will start with a very brief introduction, especially to highlight the importance of using an alternative dispute resolution mechanism in resolving infrastructure project disputes.
Dr. Faustin?
Yes.
We can hear you very well. So, sorry, I was temporarily muted.
Sorry, engineer. Yes.
Just a while, I wanted to make a brief introduction, and then now we can allow you to proceed.
Yes, thank you, engineer.
All right. Now, I take this opportunity to introduce our presenter, Dr. Faustin. And Dr. Faustin brings familiarity with the major legal systems, common law, and civil law. Dr. Faustin has been a consultant with good expertise in legal and regulatory business reforms, trade and investment policy and law, trade facilitation and trade-related capacity building, trade and investment-related dispute settlement and the rule of law, and corporate governance. In addition, Dr. Faustin has a very good teaching and research experience. He has taught in various universities and institutions of higher learning in Rwanda, the United States of America, and Canada. Dr. Faustin has also worked in the private sector as a managing director of Agaseke Bank Limited, a microfinance bank, and his main task was to implement a strategic plan aimed at ultimately transforming the microfinance bank into a fully fledged commercial bank. From April 2013 to March 2020, Dr. Faustin was judge of the East African Court of Justice from 4th of December 2019 to that of December 2024. He was Chief Justice, President of the Supreme Court of Rwanda. He is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, FCF London, a former member of the panel of conciliators of the World Bank's International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes, and as well a member of African Arbitration Association. He is also a member of the panel of arbitrators, mediators of the Kigali International Arbitration Center, and he currently practices as an independent arbitrator and mediator. Additionally, he is also the founder and director of the Center for Integrity, Resolution, and Ethics. Dr. Faustin holds a PhD in law from Antwerp University in Belgium, which he did in 1994. He has 2 master's degrees, one in fiscal law from Free University of Brussels, Belgium, and a Master of Arts in International Affairs with a specialization in international trade policy from Carleton University in 2009, Canada, in addition to an LLB honors from National University of Rwanda. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to now officially welcome Dr. Faustin to make his presentation. Dr. Faustin, please take us through your presentation, Paradigm Shift in Dispute Resolution. You're most welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kyoko, for this generous introduction. And I said it is really a great pleasure to be with you this morning or afternoon, depending to where you are, especially when it comes to talk about this very important component of African economy, which is infrastructure. My presentation will revolve around the following points. I will start with a very brief introduction, especially highlighting the importance of using alternative dispute resolution to resolve infrastructure project disputes. I'll go on to highlight what types of infrastructure project disputes are we talking about. And then after, I will go through some key ADR mechanisms to resolve infrastructure project disputes. And I will, as a matter of illustration, give 2 case studies, one with regard to a dispute that also will be highlighting a challenge in a dispute resolution related to infrastructure. That is a case, a Nigeria case. And then I will refer also to a Tanzanian case. I will talk about the challenges, and I will end up with a very brief conclusion. So construction and infrastructure projects are the indisputable backbone of economic growth and social development across the African continent. From modernizing transport network, developing robust energy grid, for example, like vital gas and oil infrastructure, and establishing digital infrastructure to building essential utilities and housing. These often big projects are fundamental to improving living standards, attracting foreign investors, but also fostering regional integration. The successful, smooth, and timely implementation of these endeavors is strategically vital to economic future of our continent and our countries. However, the very nature of these undertaking creates a fertile ground for conflict. As you note, infrastructure, energy, and construction projects are technically complicated. They are strategically important. There is a high value, they have high value and often involve multiple parties from numerous jurisdictions. It is not unusual for such a project to experience dispute over, for example, delays, extension of time, additional cost related to variation, for example, a change in scope, but also liquidated damages for late completion, defect and quality issues, professional negligence claims, or dispute related to termination of contracts. So the presence of these disputes poses a significant threat, potentially handling the smooth implementation project and steering critical economic development. we have seen that protracted litigation through traditional court system is often time-consuming. It is expensive, and it can damage commercial relationship irreversibly. Furthermore, the lack of specialized technical and sectoral expertise, especially when it comes to the judiciary, often found within many African courts, makes them ill-equipped really to efficiently handle the complexity inherent in these high-value engineering and construction claims. So that is the reason why there is a compelling need for an efficient and effective dispute resolution system that can address these complex issues swiftly, but also confidentially. So that is the necessity really to drive this necessity drive the paradigm shift toward alternative dispute resolution method, which often are project-centric. They are often cost-effective. They are timely. They are mechanisms crucial for safeguarding the investment, but also realizing the transformative potential of investment. The most used and effective ideal mechanisms in this sector, such as negotiation, mediation, adjudication, and arbitration, they provide parties with the specialized knowledge and procedural flexibility which is necessary to resolve dispute without delaying vital economic progress. And so what are the types of infrastructure project disputes we encounter often? The main disputes encountered in construction infrastructure projects are related to the complexity really and the long duration and the contractual relationship between parties. The most common disputes arise around the scheduling and delay disputes. They are related to the scheduling and delay, like, for example, disagreement over project completion dates, extension of time, and associated costs due to unforeseen circumstances, lack of resources, or changes in scope. They can also be related to payment and financial dispute, like no payment or delay payment, and also the loss of profit claims or wrongful withholding of deposit or retainage. These disputes can also be pertinent to contract and scope dispute, like the contract interpretation, the change order disputes, or more importantly, they can be due to quality and defect, like defect claims in the construction. These disputes concerning the quality of materials or workmanship that fail to meet the agreed upon standards or specification. We have also some professional negligence, that is the dispute involving poor design, planning, or even material selection. And distinguished participant, there is another one really which is emerging disputes. Another area of dispute that is what we see now as environmental dispute. These rise from the negative impact a project may have on the natural, environmental, and the local communities. So with regard to environmental disputes, they can be centered on the impact of project to natural resources, ecosystem, and pollution. We have seen a dispute revolving around the habitat loss and the biodiversity degradation, but also the resource use and depletion, and the pollution and emission, and also some climate change impact. With regard to social disputes, and here I am very glad to share with you that, for example, when I was at the East African Court of Justice, we dealt with a case related to residents around the Serengeti National Park that were suing the government of Tanzania because it wanted to construct a road through the Serengeti National Park. So the people, the indigenous people, and indigenous people and helped by numerous non-governmental organizations, they sue the government, and the East African Court of Justice has to deal with for this case. So there are more and more social disputes related to infrastructure projects that are being undertaken in various countries. So now the center for my presentation is about the importance of using ADR in infrastructure projects. Here, I can borrow from, I have seen from the participants that there are some distinguished engineers, but also ADR practitioners that wrote on this subject matter. And I am just borrowing from them with regard to highlighting the importance of ADR in infrastructure project. The construction infrastructure projects is essential to African economy, as I said, but disputes therein are inevitable. So effective dispute resolution mechanisms are crucial for mitigating financial and reputational risk, for maintaining business efficacy, but also for enhancing investor confidence and project certainty. So alternative dispute resolution mechanisms such as mediation, arbitration, negotiation, adjudication are processed used to settle conflict outside the traditional formal judicial system. And here I can testify from my experience in the judiciary, being at the national level, but also at the regional level, that sometimes these kind of disputes are not suitable for the traditional formal judicial system. Why? There are many key advantages of ADR in infrastructure project dispute, for example, like the cost and the time efficiency. ADR is generally faster and less expensive than court litigation, which is critical since infrastructure disputes often lead to costly project delay and escalated costs. Second, the flexibility and customization. Party can agree on a resolution tailored to their needs, and they have the ability to select a third party, neutral with expertise, who understand the specificity project context. But also ADR are able to preserve the relationship between parties. Mechanisms like negotiation and mediation facilitate better communication. They help parties to preserve professional relationship, and they foster future collaboration. As far as risk management is concerned, ADR processes are often confidential, protecting sensitive project information, and incorporating a clear ADR roadmap into contract is an effective method for managing project risk. So, and here I am borrowing from engineer David Kwashianyate, who is on this platform, and I am very glad really to see him participating in his webinar. He, in his paper, highlight the unique value of engineering in ADR. He said engineers possess specific skills that make them highly effective ADR practitioners, particularly for infrastructure disputes. Due to technical knowledge, they have the specific technical expertise required to appreciate and apply principles related to project specification and engineering issues. Second, he said that they have analysis and communication, the level of analysis and the communication as engineers are adept at analyzing complex technical issues and communicating them clearly to all parties, leading to a better understanding of claims. Thirdly, he is of the view that they have the project expertise necessary, which is requisite for understanding this kind of dispute. Their experience in project management enable them to effectively evaluate claims related to project effects, events, enhancing the quality and the speed of dispute resolution. So he is encouraging basically African engineers to become ADR practitioners, and I do the same. I concur with him that we have, and I am sure that is the reason why we are here, we have to be encouraged to embrace ADR in resolving infrastructure projects dispute. So what are the main ADR mechanisms that are used for effective infrastructure project dispute resolution? To start with, any dispute, when there is a dispute arises in infrastructure or any other sector, the common way of going around it is to see, can we settle this dispute amicably? Can we find a way of negotiating, for example? So negotiation is a direct and voluntary method of dispute resolution where the parties involved communicate and bargain with each other to reach a mutual acceptable resolution. So it is characterized by the absence of a neutral third party. They are the parties that are negotiating between themselves. There is no need for a third party to intervene. So this approach is highly favored in the construction industry, for example, because it provides an inexpensive means of resolving issues while actively maintaining professional relationship between linked parties. The key aspect is it allows systematic dialogue. It is a voluntary engagement. It is an informal approach. It has an informal approach. But also, there is, if you fail to reach an agreement, a settlement between yourself, there is no other consequence other than, that the dispute has not been resolved. But I can see that from my experience, but also from your respective experience, you have seen that it is a starting point to see if a dispute can be resolved. Second is also very close, is mediation. Mediation is a form of alternative dispute resolution. It is a formal process where a neutral third party, the mediator, facilitates productive discussion between the disputing parties. I'm sure nowadays we have various professionals, ADR practitioners that are specialized in a different sector in mediating different disputes that is intervening in different sector. For example, myself, I endeavor to find out if to specialize a little bit in mediating, for example, financial, commercial, and investment dispute. I'm sure among the distinguished participants on this platform, there are also engineers that are specializing in mediating infrastructure project dispute. It can reach a consensual settlement, and it is no binding, and it is very facilitative, as the mediator role is to facilitate communication, reestablish trust, and guide the parties toward structuring a final agreement rather than imposing a decision. So my advice here is to make sure that we specialize in one or another area to be more efficient. Maybe you may specialize in the construction sector. Another one will be about energy, another one will be in another sector, as I took infrastructure in a broader sense, according to the nomination of the World Bank, which is encompassing, various sub-sectors. I was talking about the importance of mediation. And as far as infrastructure project dispute resolution is concerned, a very specific mechanism to resolve such a dispute is used across and during the execution of different projects is dispute board. Dispute boards are a form of alternative dispute resolution designed to provide timely and impartial decision on disputes that arise during construction projects, for example. They are typically composed of independent experts who monitor the project and intervene when necessary to resolve conflict. So a dispute board generally has the power to adjudicate or opine on all emerging disputes arising from the project, and can make recommendation and temporary binding decision. Parties are not usually bound to comply with a dispute board recommendation or decision if it notifies its disagreement within a certain period of time prescribed under the contract. So the recommendation or decision is temporarily binding in the same way as adjudication we'll be talking about later on. It is binding until the dispute is fully determined in court or through arbitration. So party may also choose to enforce a dispute board recommendation or decision. So under various dispute board mechanisms or protocol, there are provisions that stipulate that if a contracting party does not comply with the dispute board recommendation or decision, the other party may refer such non-compliance to the court or arbitration, which shall have the power to make the requisite order or award to enforce the dispute board recommendation or decision. I'm sure some of you are very familiar with this alternative dispute resolution mechanism. I remember myself having been part of this kind of dispute board as a legal expert witness in one case, and I can assure you that it is very effective as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism. So dispute board, very important as far as trying to resolve disputes related to infrastructure project. More importantly, also in this vein is adjudication. So adjudication is an alternative dispute resolution mechanism specially designed to resolve dispute quickly and cost effectively through a neutral third party who is an adjudicator. It is predominantly used in the construction industry to provide a temporary binding decision that keeps project moving forward. So the adjudicator's decision is binding on the parties until a final resolution is reached, if necessary, through other means such as litigation or arbitration. So this means that adjudication does not always result in a final settlement, as either party may later pursue the same matter in the court or arbitration, but many adjudication rulings are ultimately accepted by the parties as the final outcome. So the main way, there is two main ways to go about adjudication. You can use adjudication because in the contract, in the an infrastructure contract, for example, it has been provided that any dispute arising will be resolved through adjudication. And generally, this kind of infrastructure contracts follow the model of the FIDIC contract, and we have a contractual adjudication. And second, the second form is the mandatory, the statutory adjudication. This is provided for by the law. And as I have seen, in Africa, we are more using contractual adjudication than statutory or mandatory adjudication. Although many countries like Kenya, for example, and South Africa are considering setting up or adopting laws mandating the use of adjudication, like it is the case, for example, in the UK, when we have the Housing Grant Construction and Regeneration Act 1996, which is known as the Construction Act in the UK. The key benefits of adjudication, it is speed and economy. It is a specialized, it provides a specialized knowledge. It is wide, used in a wide jurisdiction to generate cover over dispute arising under a qualifying contract, but also very important as far as the enforceability. The court generally enforces the adjudicator judgment, making it crucial to ensure all relevant facts are presented clearly. So adjudication is very, very important. make sure that when it comes to drafting the contract, the very recommendation, for example, by FIDIC are followed in order to have a good contract and a good clause, arbitration clause, for example, adjudication clause in this contract. Follow another very important, although not mostly used in our jurisdictions, is expert determination. It is very relevant to the topic we are talking about as far as infrastructure projects is concerned. While arbitration and adjudication mechanisms such as dispute adjudication boards are gaining traction across the continent, expert determination remains relatively underused. Expert determination is a consensual alternative dispute resolution method where parties agree to submit a dispute to an independent technical expert for a binding private decision. So it is particularly effective for resolving technical and evaluation-based construction dispute quickly, as it allows for a specific based on expertise of the expertise of the for example, the person relied to carry out this determination. And the process is confidential. The process is flexible, and its efficiency comes from its ability to focus on the technical aspect of the disagreement. Very important as far as technical matters are concerned. So, but as I said, it is not used, it is not often used, and maybe due to the lack of familiarity with the process or the concern about enforceability, or even the preference, now for formalized procedure. But I think awareness like what we are doing like now will help people understand why expert determination as far as the technical or disputes is concerned is a very appropriate for resolving infrastructure-related disputes. The main and the preferred dispute resolution mechanism which is used in resolving infrastructure project dispute is arbitration. Like litigation, arbitration is a dispute resolution method that delivers a binding resolution abided by both parties. It is a method of resolving disagreement outside of a court jurisdiction, and the party refer their disagreement to an impartial, knowledgeable person, who is an arbitrator or an arbitral tribunal, who makes a definitive ruling award that all parties accept. In arbitration, a neutral third party selected jointly by all parties consider the evidence and argument from the parties and make a binding decision ground for, and the arbitration is a less formal. It is a more flexible alternative dispute resolution mechanism. It is based on the principle of party autonomy because they are the one that are playing an active role, unlike litigation where the court is the one who is leading the proceedings. So the corporation should do, for example, when it comes to infrastructure project dispute, and I am sure many of you are aware of it, and they are even I have seen a very specialist in a very area of your industry. It is very important that arbitration as such, there is a requisite training, a requisite certification process. And again, I am referring to the paper by engineer David Nyante, who also shows how this certification can be done through, for example, regional arbitration institutions such as he's talking from Ghana, for example, the Ghanaian Arbitration Center, the Kigali Arbitration Center, the Lagos Court of Arbitration, the Nairobi International Arbitration Center, you name it. So it is very important as far as arbitration is concerned to make sure that people are very well trained, have the requisite certification, and so that they can handle very well the different disputes that arise in this area. Let me highlight the two cases in order just to give you or even, just an example of where arbitration has been used to resolve some dispute in Africa. I referred to one case which is pending. One is pending, and the other one is a case that has been resolved. The pending case is the Pan-African Energy versus Tanzania Gas arbitration. It is a kind of challenge to resource sovereignty. The arbitration case initiated by Pan-African Energy Tanzania Limited and its parent company, Orca Energy Group Incorporation, against the United Republic of Tanzania and the Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation represent a major investor-state dispute in the extractive sector. So the core of the conflict lies in alleged breach of the long-standing contractual agreement for the Songo gas field, which have been exacerbated by a significant shift in the Tanzania national resource laws. As from 2017, Tanzania has reformed its national resource law, and the claimant is arguing that by the change that happened in this registration, the core conflict, as I said, are in alleged breach of long-standing this contractual agreement, especially following the revision of the legislation in Tanzania in natural resources in the national resources sector. So the claimant's main arguments is one, the failure to extend the development license. Second, forcing the protected gas regime, but also the failure to pay royalties and the pattern related to claim harassment by the government of Tanzania. So this is one case which shows that dispute around infrastructure is live, and it is about time that we continue to strengthen our knowledge and our capacity in resolving such disputes. The second case study is also taken from the paper of Engineer Nyant, where he is showing that using alternative dispute resolution in resolving infrastructure project is very useful. It is very useful. And he illustrated by the West African gas pipeline and the West African gas pipeline, which is a cross-border project which started from 2000 and is called 2010. Its estimated cost was about 1 billion, and the project is a 678 kilometers long natural gas pipeline from Nigeria through Benin and Togo, ending in Ghana. So it connects the parties, the Escravos Lagos pipeline system in Nigeria to the Takoradi Tema pipeline in Ghana. So during the construction of these projects, numerous disputes arose, such as contractual dispute, technical dispute, environmental and social impact dispute, construction delays and defects, you name it. So mechanisms used in addressing those disputes included negotiation and mediation, expert determination, and technical audit, but also arbitration at the International Chamber of Commerce and ad hoc arbitration. So this is one where Engineer Nyante is illustrating the use of alternative dispute resolution to successfully resolve such a dispute. the other one, which is also is the case we related to between Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the company named Process Industry. The arbitration case of Process Industrial Development Limited versus the Federal Republic of Nigeria stand as a critical example of the vulnerability of international arbitration to fraud and corruption. So the dispute became globally famous due to the 1,100 billion final award issued against Nigeria and the subsequent highly scrutinized judgment by English High Court that ultimately nullified the award on the ground of massive misconduct. So a bit of background on this case. The foundation of this dispute was a gas supply and processing agreement that was signed in 2010 between the Nigeria government and P&ID, the company I named, a company which is registered in the British Virgin Islands. So under the gas supply and processing agreement, P&ID was tasked with building a gas processing plant, and Nigeria was obligated to supply wet gas for the facility. The project, however, never materialized. In 2013, the company initiated an arbitration proceeding claiming that Nigeria had repudiated the contract by failing to provide the necessary gas supply and infrastructure. The arbitration was seated in London, England, meaning the procedural law governing the process was the English Arbitration Act. The substantive law, that is the applicable law of the contract itself, was Nigerian law, and the arbitration was conducted under the institutional arbitration rules. The arbitral tribunal was composed of highly distinguished figures. I don't name them for the sake of confidentiality, but yeah, people are aware of this case and they know them. So as far as the award is concerned, the arbitration process over several years, leading to two major awards, award on liability in 2015 and the final award in 2017. Crucially, but also when it comes to the final award on damages, the tribunal acting by majority ordered Nigeria to pay the 11 billion, including interest. And there was one prominent dissent in to the arbitral award. The dissent was about, of course, the quantum of the damages that was allowed by the majority of the arbitrator. Nigeria has continuously sought to continuously challenge the arbitral award, and it did it brought the case to the High Court, and the High Court, the English High Court, issue a decision, or deliver rather a decision on the allegation of fraud and corruption. And basically, in a landmark judgment in October 2023, the judge who was handling the case confirmed the allegation of corruption and fraud, stating that the arbitration was a share that got nowhere near the truth. I quote, the judgment detailed a series of severe abuse by the company and its associate, including contract procurement bribery, perjury, witness tampering, misuse of document, you name it. So this is one case which is combining, highlighting the use of arbitration to resolve infrastructure-related dispute, but also one challenge. And I am very glad that the Federation of African Engineering Organizations has one area of activity to combat corruption within the industry, which is very, very commendable. I am heading toward the end of my presentation by highlighting three challenges. One is about three challenges when you want to deal with efficacy with the resolution of infrastructure project dispute. Of course, there is political interference because of the importance of this kind of project. Sometimes the government, different authorities want to interfere with the normal mechanism resolving disputes. Second problem I highlighted was with regard to the Nigeria case is about corruption. There is no way that we can build an industry if we are not committed to fight corruption at any cost. We have not to tolerate that our respective professional institutions or even in our profession and our work is tempted by corruption. It is a collective endeavor. And as I said, I am very glad that the Federation is very active in this area, and it is very commendable. That is the second challenge that I highlight. But the third one is what I call judicial intervention, or rather the judicial interference. Sometimes the primary challenge is the risk of undue judicial interference with the arbitration process because you can't have a successful arbitration without the support of the judiciary. And that is the reason why sometimes judges are intervening, and they are, rather than intervening, they are interfering with the process, hindering the arbitration process. So, but many jurisdictions are making progress, and we are happy that most jurisdictions are more and more adopting friendly approach to arbitration proceedings. But also the problem is happening when it comes, of course, to enforce the arbitral award. And we have seen with the enforcement award, courts sometimes are slow, sometimes they are unpredictable, or hostile in recognizing and enforcing domestic foreign awards, especially when they are involving authorities or state-owned enterprises. So there is a need for awareness, there is a need of upholding the party autonomy, but also there is a need of judicial training in order for them to be up to the task. Let me conclude by saying that we have to embrace ADR for efficient resolution of infrastructure project disputes in Africa, because the successful realization of Africa's transformative infrastructure agenda, from energy grids and transport linked to vital housing, for example, is strategically dependent on effective, efficient, and specialized dispute resolution. In this presentation, I have tried to highlight the compelling necessity and the practical benefit driving the paradigm shift towards alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. If you may take some key takeaway from my presentation with about one, the threats of litigation is real. The immense complexity, high value, and multi-jurisdictional nature of our infrastructure projects inevitably breed disputes. Traditional litigation marred by time-consuming processes, high cost, and the lack of specialized technical expertise in many courts poses an unacceptable threat to project timelines and investor confidence. The second takeaway, if you may, is ADR offer project-centric solutions. Mechanisms like adjudication for quick temporary decision, mediation for relationship preservation and consensual agreement, arbitration for binding confidential and also being globally enforced through the New York Convention, for example. It provides the essential tools to resolve conflict without delaying vital economic progress. So ADR ensures cost and time efficiency, flexibility, and risk management. Some have talked about the Africanization of expertise, which is crucial, because the argument for leveraging African engineering ADR practitioners is not merely one of capacity, but of strategic advantage. So they specialized technical knowledge, project expertise, and cultural familiarity ensure that disputes are resolved swiftly, equitably, and with a deep understanding of the local context, as demonstrated by the lesson from the West African Gas Pipeline project. Another takeaway is the rise of African arbitration centers. Institutions such as the Lagos Court of Arbitration, the Kigali International Arbitration Center, the Cairo Regional Center for International and Commercial Arbitration, or even the African, the Arbitration Foundation of Southern Africa, and many others, Nairobi International Arbitration Center. They are rapidly gaining maturity, offering a crucial comparative advantage in terms of cost effectiveness, proximity, but also in parallel familiarity with local legal and cultural context, particularly within harmonized framework like OHADA, for example, for Western countries belonging to these organizations. So in sum, I may say, ADR is no longer a secondary option. It is the essential bedrock upon which the success of African infrastructure development rests. By fostering an environment that promotes and utilizes local ADR expertise and institutions, African nations can salvaguard investment, enhance project certainty, and unlock the full potential of their economic future. So distinguished participants, Dr. Kioko, moderator, that is really the essence of the message I wanted to convey to the distinguished participants. Of course, I am at your disposal for the Q&A session. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Faustin, for that powerful and thought-provoking presentation. You actually have clearly and eloquently captured how ADR continues to evolve as a practical, inclusive, and transformative pathway to resolving disputes. Just not only in litigation, of course, but especially in the built environment, in engineering and the built environment across the borders. And we are deeply grateful for that and that depth of insight you have shared with us from your rich experience as former CJ for Rwanda and a great champion for judicial reform and arbitration. We are very, very, very grateful. And I think I will just ask the audience to join me in appreciating you with a virtual round of applause. And we are greatly indebted to that great contribution to you. And we hope to really listen to you more and more in the upcoming webinar series. I think from there, we will now proceed to the question and answer session. And I would request our participants to post their comments in the chat box so that we can proceed to conclusion. I don't know whether I am able to see any of the questions in the chat box, or probably we can have participants making their comments or probably questions for responses. And just as we wait for any possible questions, Nadia, I would probably want to find out possibly how far ADR has been embraced across the African states. Generally, if you wish to respond to that, Dr. Faustin.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kyoko for this question. From my experience in the judiciary, I have seen that, but also from my previous experience in the Rwandan government, especially when it comes to legislation, you know that as a former Minister of Justice, we had also to carry out reforms, legislative reforms, in order to set up the necessary requisite in order to make sure that we are not only referring dispute to traditional mechanisms such as litigation, but also we have the requisite legislation tools in order to deal with dispute. So I can testify that countries are more and more upgrading and updating their laws in order to include the last time I checked, for example, Nigeria was a new law in 2024. And I see from my jurisdiction, for example, that there are many projects in the pipeline following the adoption of what we call the earlier dispute resolution policy that has been adopted by the government. Yes, they are increasing activities around the reforms in order to incorporate ADR in the dispute resolution landscape in Africa. Countries are very busy reforming and even updating their laws. Yes.
Thanks indeed. I welcome any other question. I can see
there is a
from
problem
Ilu, and is asking, sorry, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, there was a problem of interference, but now we can hear you. Yes, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Engineer Stephen Gill is asking, kindly take us through the process of becoming an arbitrator from a beginner to a chartered arbitrator. I don't know if you want to weigh in on that, or just a comment, something.
Very quickly, mine was through the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, the London-based one. And of course, we have to start with you start with the associate and the membership, and you go on with the fellowship. I have yet to be a chartered, so I hope that I will be a chartered as far as practice. But what I can say very briefly is a very exciting exercise. I invite everyone who is not yet been in this process. It is a very exciting process, a learning process, and a very edifying really process. The Chartered Institute of Arbitrators is very placed, and it does have branches across our continent. And it is very good that you can follow the very good training that they are providing. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Faustin. I can see my good friend Papias Kazawad has raised his hand. Engineer, the floor is yours to make your comment or question. Papias Kazawad.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much, Paul. I don't really have a question. Rather, I'm appreciating the presentation by the former Chief Justice of Rwanda. And I also appreciate the coordination and the leadership of the FAO task force of ADR. And of course, my friend Victor. I'm only seeing the great need of young and most experienced engineers getting traction to the ADR solving of the disputes. So probably I would like to request the Victor as the head of the Secretariat KIAC and FAO task force to probably share some insights in terms of enabling our members, our engineers who have interest, like the previous question of how does one become an arbitrator, what would be the pathway? What are the, how does one start the process as a member of the Federation of Africa Engineering Organization with the assistance of the task force and the KIAC? That would be my question. Mainly, I would like to hear from David and Victor. Thank you very much.
Very well. I thank you, Engineer Kazawadi Papias. Maybe Engineer David Nyande, Victor, would you like to weigh in on that comment?
Yes, thank you very much, Paul, and thank you very much, Engineer Kazawadi. I think that's a very important question, and that is also part of what we are looking at as a committee, and we are going to partner with some of these regional arbitration centers like KIAC to offer those training within the regions. We recognize that Africa has various regions, and so we will be partnering with various arbitration providers in these regions to assist us to develop our members. And as you are aware, we are also encouraging our PEIs to set up engineering ADR dispute centers, resolution centers, and GHI has just done this. We will be rolling out a webinar on how to set up ADR centers early next year, and we'll also be rolling out a webinar on how to get certified and how to become a practitioner. You know, going through the steps and training yourself to be able to partake in this conflict resolution process. So thank you very much, and then we'll be sharing that also in due course. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer David Nyande. We also have, I think, comments or questions from Michael and Jonas. I think, Michael, you can go first. Michael, you are muted.
Yes, he's muted. No, he's muted. Eh?
Moderator, I think you are able to unmute Michael.
Muted.
So unmute Michael.
Yes,
I'm asking to unmute, yeah.
yes. Now, to my own side, especially as a young engineer, currently in the renewable sector, I would like to know if in a critical condition wherein the contractor has been given the dimension, but to meet the standard at which is to be upgraded, the plant is not fit to what is being given by me as the electrical engineer in that site. If I'm to object it directly to the client or discuss it further with the contractor in addressing such issue. Hello?
Thank you, Michael. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right. Maybe if that is all, we can take the other question from, I think, Jonas. You can go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Again, let me join Engineer Papias in thanking, our former Chief Justice. I'm quite impressed with the presentation, and I've learned a lot. But again, mine, in fact, at one point I lowered my hand because it's primarily it's around the same area of how would a young engineer who really is desirous of getting into this career path, what really he'd have to do or she would have to do. Would he have to take a degree in law and then, of course, go through the continuing professional development, because really it's an area which we lack expertise. And like the speaker mentioned, conflicts arise everywhere, and more so in engineering and at a very high level. And you're talking about huge sums of money, in terms of habilitation. So, we definitely need to encourage these younger ones or seasoned engineers who may want to veer into conflict resolution, and as you mentioned, particularly ADR, what kind of career path. But like David said, if they're going to be webinars and so on, but just quickly, would you have to have a degree in law and so on after studying engineering? That probably might be a first step in addressing the career path that this young engineer might have to take. Thank you very much.
Thanks indeed for that excellent comment and question. I think Dr. Faustin, you can take those two.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kyoko, and thank you. A big thank to the distinguished participants. Let me start with, again, come back to the certification process, which is very important. But also, what are the prerequisites? Have you to combine, in engineering, a degree in engineering related field with a degree in law? I have been admiring engineers who are at the same time lawyers. We have more and more engineers who are also lawyers. And I have a friend of mine who happened also to be my trainer when I was going through my certification process. That is Dr. Dr. Kyoko, Dr. Engineer Paul Ngoto from Kenya. When he was training us, he was just engineer in his field, but also a certified arbitrator. But later on, he earned degrees after degrees in law, with an LLB, and then after with a master in law. So, of course, that is something that is very encouraging, because you have a comprehensive, really now you can have a comprehensive view of the dispute we are talking, or the matter we are talking about. But you have not all to go through the law school, because as I have seen, I am not an engineer, but I have seen through your training, you have also many issues related to, many subject matter related to law, construction law, and the like, energy law, petroleum law, and the like. So those are also very useful. But of course, I concur with Engineer Nyante that regional center, arbitration center, have a role to play. And I'm sure our Secretary General from KIAC, the Kigali International Arbitration Center, who is in this platform, is going to do something about it. And they are doing something about it, especially along with Engineer Kazawadi. I know that they are very active in making sure that there are many engineers that are coming on board as far as training is concerned. I beg you pardon, I didn't hear very well the question from Engineer Michael. Dr. Kyoko, can you help me out with Engineer Michael question?
I would respectively request Engineer Michael to please repeat the question, please, if you can.
Yes. How do we communicate issues that arise within a project as to doing the right thing as an engineer in the field?
So if I heard you well, it is about also ethical aspects or ethical standards that have to be upheld.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and of course, as someone who is championing integrity in across the industries, a very crucial sector like yours is very important. It is very important that integrity, transparency in everything that we do is upheld. How do we communicate? How do you do about it? I am sure that the Federation is doing it. And that is the reason why I was commending it to have a committee, an anti-corruption committee, which is very active to make sure that everything is done correctly. But also, I am sure that you do have in-house or within the federation mechanism in order to deal with people that, your people who may go against the very standard that you want to uphold. And in that way, there is many materials that are available, especially with FIDIC. I have seen that there are many materials available with regard to ethical standards that have to be upheld. That is my take on the question of Michael.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you. That's very clear, Dr. Faustin. I am not sure that there is I can see any other hand or maybe a question in the chat box. Certainly, Victor Mugabe.
Yes, I have seen the comment that, yes, the chat.
Yeah, sure. All right. Okay. Proceed.
Yes, Dr. Chioko. I have seen from Engineer Komla that he was commenting or asking if the paper by Engineer David Nyante can be accessed. I'm sure that Engineer Nyante will be kind enough to share the paper to the rest of the participants. Which is a very good paper he wrote on the matter. But also there are many materials that I use. I will forward them to you with regard to the very case law that I was referring to.
Perfect. I think Engineer Nyanda has been cited severally, so we really envy him. I don't know whether there is any comment from yourself, Engineer David Nyanda, on the same?
Surely, I'll make it available. Yes, sure.
Right. Great. To you, Dr. Faustin, there's a question from Joseph O'Day. Says, why are projects sponsored by governments mostly find themselves in disputes?
I think this one, as someone who happened to be, a Minister of Justice, and of course, the legal advisor to the government, we have many reasons. We have many reasons that projects sponsored by government end up being in dispute. It is due to from the preparation stage. From this preparation stage, we have many of our government who don't have really the requisite, capacity to negotiate this very complex contract. I'm sure you are aware of the complexity of this kind of contract. When you see, for example, a product a share contract, a production share contract in an oil sector, that is an example that I am giving. But I have seen also when we are, for example, contracting someone for extraction of the methane gas in one of our Great Lake. We were struggling. At the time, I was the managing director of what we call the Rwandan Utility Regulatory Agency. And we had to rely to some expertise from abroad. And likely now we have more and more Africans, professionals that are trained in various areas. So problem is lack of capacity. But good news is that our government are continuously building capacity. So we have to make sure that at the preparation stage, we have a contract that are well drafted, and so that even when it comes to, of course, all the specification of the project have to be well drafted. And of course, even it comes to dispute resolution mechanism, you have also to make sure that if these dispute resolution clauses are very well written. So capacity building is key.
Great. I've seen from Victor Mugabe, I think this is a little bit of informative, says for those who want to be certified as arbitration practitioners, you may start with undertaking affordable arbitration training by SIAB, starting with the basic and entry course leading to SIAB associate member. The courses are provided by SIAB branches in different countries across Africa, including Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt, Rwanda, Zambia, etc. The SIAB Rwanda branch is providing the online entry course next month, November 2025. And yes, definitely, that is in the information from Victor Mugabe, and thank you very much for that. Can you see from Jonas Redwood? I think it says that governments at times renege on providing their counterpart funding, leading to delayed payments. And so I think that is in addition to what the presenter has already explained. Any questions or anybody we may have left out today? I can see that Engineer Loach has decided to reserve his comments. I cannot. Any hand up? I cannot see.
Yes, I think Joseph Odai, can you unmute him?
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Paul, and then thank you very much. I'll call him. So I say Chief Justice or Justice Posted for your delivery. I'm trying to follow up on my earlier questions. He made some significant points in trying to discuss it with us. I'm particularly worried about government projects, and one or two adjudications that I've gotten myself to. You realize that governments, I don't know, unethically do not respect contracts. And that is one of our biggest problems that we always get into this adjudication. I have been thinking that our presenter mentioned capacity building. And my question is, what is project? I mean, project is somebody doing something for you. You have agreed with him that you are going to pay some money. The question is that, do you have the cash flow? Why don't you design your contract to flow with your cash flow? And people work, they issue a certificate, and you don't pay, it goes into adjudication. Then you have other interest to pay on, some of these certificates. And it's the cost to the taxpayer. So I think that probably in enhancing the capacity building, project managers, especially engineers, should really, really think about finance. I mean, these are, when we are looking at the capacity building aspect of it, finance should be one of the key aspects that should be delivered to professionals handling government projects, so that once they understand finance, they know how to handle projects to ensure that this kind of arbitration or disputes are well minimized. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Engineer Joseph, for these very relevant, pertinent comments. When you were talking, I mentioned, issue of governance, but also when it comes to, at the preparation stage, at the negotiation stage, the engaging as much as possible different stakeholders and with different discipline. Because if you take a big contract, for example, infrastructure contract, you can see different subcontractors that are intervening in various areas, in finance, if we take a big energy contract, for example, you may see how many stakeholders are involved. And generally, you are seeing in the negotiation stage, some people from the Ministry of Justice and people from the Ministry of in charge of Energy, to name that one, and others are not involved. And sometimes the problem is, as I say, it is a problem of governance and transparency. Many contracts are negotiated in not really a sufficient transparent manner. I remember one time I was asking for the sake of my teaching, to access some confidential element of a given project, but it was refused. So imagine then what is negotiated if at the end of the day you have a contract which is not fitting for purpose, because various relevant stakeholders have not been involved. And if they had been involved, they would have, of course, procured and provided with the requisite expertise. Yes, I agree. I can't agree more with your comment.
Great, and thank you very much for that engagement. I guess we really have exhausted the questions as of now, and I think the amount of questions is a reflection of how useful that presentation was by Dr. Faustin. I think we may need now to try and come to the end of the webinar. And I must thank the presenter, Dr. Faustin, the Ziliayo, for really being very, very generous, in availing this information with the world of experience and even giving us practical in the course of your experience as a CJ and in practice. So I must thank everybody else who has attended, and to all participants, thank you for joining us from across the continent and beyond. Your engagement, questions, and reflections really remind us that DR is indeed a global conversation, and we really need to embrace and nurture it in our African setting. So on behalf of the FAO, Federation of African Engineering Organization, ADR Committee, and the Kigali International Arbitration Center, we also greatly thank you. And we sincerely thank Dr. Faustin for honoring the invitation, and we do appreciate every participant who made time to really join and be with us here in this virtual webinar. So we recognize FAO, ADR committee members, and everybody, and really for making this event possible. Engineer David Nyande and Victor Mugabe and your leadership. So as we close, let us continue to champion ADR. My name is Engineer Paul Kiok from Nairobi, and it's been my pleasure moderating this inspiring session. What I would request you is just to invite you to stay connected through our platforms for upcoming sessions on ADR. From Kigali, Nairobi, across Africa, we wish you a pleasant afternoon, evening, and a productive weekend ahead, and a week after the weekend. Thank you all once again. I would really pray that you stay safe, and we look forward to welcoming you to our next FAO ADR events. And having said that, I would really respectively wish to bring this session to a close so that it is now officially closed. And thank you very much. I wish you a bright week ahead as we now come into the month of November. Please stay tuned for any other ADR events so that we can continue to engage and really assist one another to navigate through ADR. It's so important that we really cannot exhaust this discussion in one webinar. Dr. Faustin, thank you once again, and I would really wish to have you as many times as you can afford to really find time for us. Asanteni sana.
Thank you. Thank you very much.